I am delighted to have a very special guest with us. We're going to have Charlotte Hayes with us on the phone. She's a best-selling author of several books on Southern manners and cooking, so I already like her, including her big hit, Being Dead is No Excuse. You probably have seen some of her works in the Wall Street Journal and New York Magazine, Weekly Standard, and others. But today we're going to talk about her latest book, When Did White Trash Become the New Normal? A look at several interesting things about our culture. For those watching on theDove TV, there's a picture of the book, and I'm sure you can order it through Amazon or check it out at Barnes & Noble. So, Charlotte, nice to have you. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you for having me so much. It's very cold here in Washington today.
Oh, boy, you guys been snowed in. You got electricity, I hope.
I do. I'm not snowed in, though, thank heavens.
Okay. Well, interesting book. What made you take this on?
Well, it's supposed to be a funny book, and I really hope it is funny, but there's also sort of a serious thesis to the book. Tattoos and borrowing more money than you can pay and taking more out mortgages that you really can't pay back. These are really symptoms of something very, very serious. And as I said, I hope it's a funny book, but I talk about Arnold Toynbee, the English historian, who said that when a society takes its cultural clues from the underclass, it's a society that's disintegrating and is doomed. Yeah, I hate to talk about class because we got this fellow in the White House. Well, he's not in the White House this week. He's in Hawaii. We paid for him to get there. Who talks about class and tries to turn us against each other, class warfare. And that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about behavior, and I'm talking about the notion that if you will work hard, you can succeed. But I also do talk about taking cues from the underclass. I talk about tattoos, and I've got sort of a white trash money management tongue-in-cheek guide where you answer such questions as, should I limp when I go to the disability office? And I talk about sort of, raising your kids in a white trash way. I talk about the dolls that are made for little girls. The dolls that kids are exposed to now some of them look like they should be running on a morals charge. I mean, they look like pole dancers.
So, what do you mean by trash?
What I really mean is a kind of laziness and sloppiness about values. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it's symbolized really, the sort of white trash symbol would be the defunct or dead tractor in the front yard, or dead car in the front yard up on cement blocks permanently there. And the sort of motto is, hit don't make no difference. Nothing's worth the effort. And I think a lot of us, we see a lot of that now, this sort of attitude that it just doesn't make any difference. I think the symbol of white trash now, for me, is the foreclosed McMansion with a swimming pool in the backyard, mosquito-infested, of course, since it's foreclosed. And that just sort of, taking out a loan that there was no way you could pay back. It's not because the economy's bad. Sure, the economy's bad. But nevertheless, before you signed on the dotted line, you should think, gee whiz, can I afford this? And I think we're in a civilization where people don't ask themselves sort of basic ideas like, gee whiz, can I afford this?
Haven't we, in some ways, Charlotte, glamatized this by some of the reality shows? I mean, we've made it normal.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Jerry Springer, the famous segment, Honey, I'm a Hoe. And we have some silly recipes in this book, and one is the Honey, I'm a Hoe cake to commemorate Jerry Springer. But, I got to tell you, I was attacked recently in The Nation magazine, which is, the stalwart of the left.
Right.
And they said, golly, this is a book about class warfare. And really what they didn't like is the idea that conservatives such as myself say that if you work really hard, you can make it. They want to say, we need government handouts to make it. The system is failing people. And the Nation says, Hayes even mocks the idea that full-time work alone should be enough to escape from poverty. The colonists at Jamestown and Plymouth, she writes, knew you had to work full time and then some, and maybe still do a little starving. Well, that's actually, it's a really harsh statement, but that is my thesis. I think if you work hard, you can get ahead. And white trash values is really not working hard, not caring, thinking things don't matter.
Isn't it interesting? It's been said with the recent controversy with Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty that you got Miley Cyrus that got promoted and seen as okay, and he got excommunicated, so to speak.
Well, actually, you brought up a great point with Duck Dynasty. My book is not really about class. It's about behavioral patterns. And Miley Cyrus is white trash. Phil Robertson is not white trash because, he's worked hard. He's had a successful business, and you got to say he's got strong values. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no question about it. Do you talk about religion in your book?
I absolutely do, and the chapter on religion is called White Trash Buddhist. And listen, I'm not knocking Buddhists, and I'm sure there's some great Buddhist scholars even in the West. But you have all of these people who basically have no knowledge of the Western Christian tradition, so they decide that they're Buddhist. They just find out one day they're Buddhist. And I talk about this guy in my building. He has a blue goatee and lots of tattoos. And he says he's a Buddhist. And he said, I hope I'm not over-intellectualizing this. And I thought, boy, if there's one thing you're not doing, it's over-intellectualizing anything. Because, I talk about the fact that going to church, I say in the book that I'm going to deal with the God part of religion later, but I really never get around to dealing with it. I talk about the sociological impact of religion, and I sort of say that, going to church on Sunday, you don't do it just to keep white trash values at bay, but raising your kids with a religious background is a darn good way to make sure they don't turn out white trash.
It appears that you have pretty much hit everything square on that a lot of people have become genuinely concerned about today. There seems to me, in spite of what some of the media will tell you, that there's an underground swelling of a pushback now from this nonsense. Do you sense that?
I do sense there's an underground pushback, and I'll tell you what I think. What I think the pushback is going to take. Look, I don't know who used the phrase, but somebody said this Duck Dynasty is going to be the sort of midway. The Japanese, that was the battle they lost, and it turned the war for us. Well, that's going to be the midway, which really. We're going to come back to traditional values, and I think you see that a lot. But I'll tell you what I think it's going to take. I think a lot of the reason we see people turning against traditional values is we've been told this is a lousy country. We've been portrayed as a country that landed here in the 17th century and just pillaged our way across the continent, committing genocide merrily as we went along. And I think. And that's not the true story of America. And I think in order to go back and reclaim our religious traditions and our manners and our cultural traditions, I think we've got to have a different view of American history, and that requires a different view in academia. And let's face it, academia is really, in my view, the ultimate white trash values locale.
So, what can you say to parents who are fighting the sex and violence in entertainment and advertisement that has become normal?
I would say have dinner every night with your children. And I talk in the book about a friend of mine who's a big old liberal, unlike me. But every night she had dinner with her kids, she and her husband, and they made them behave. And if somebody misbehaved, she would say, "I'm going to send you to bed without dessert," which she would do. And I think as a result of having dinner every night with their kids, these were boys, so she didn't have to. Not buy them these slutty-looking dolls. But I think just being present with your kids and telling them that this is a great country. Oh, and taking them to church and Sunday school. I talk about when I was growing up, people went to Sunday school. I actually can remember the first time I ever met anybody who was not affiliated with some religious organization. And I wasn't shocked that he was an atheist. I was shocked that he didn't have a cultural religious affiliation. And I say in the book, if you don't know at least one verse of an Isaac Watts hymn, you may be white trash. So I would say make sure your kids learn one verse of an Isaac Watts hymn.
Wow. Well, in closing, Charlotte, what do you want? What's your goal with this book? What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I just want people to think about what's happening to us. I certainly don't want them to make any of the recipes in the book because they're sort of jokey recipes like the Elvis sandwich, which is a variation on the mayonnaise sandwich. So I do not want you to eat a mayonnaise sandwich or a honey I'm a hoe cake. But I do want you to think about our values. I do want you to think about our history. And I do want you to think that the next time you're with your cell phone, maybe you don't want to spill the intimate beans of your life to a captive audience on the subway.
All right. Well, you may want to check it out. The book is entitled When Did White Trash Become the Normal? A look at the spread of white trash culture to all levels of American society. And by Charlotte Hayes. There it is, a picture on the book on the screen for those who want to check it out at Barnes & Noble or maybe online at Amazon. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you so much.
Best to you. And you got anything new you're working on?
Well, I'm thinking about another book. But it's something serious, and I can't talk about it because I'm afraid I've never done a book this serious.
Well, let us know when it comes out, okay?
Thank you.
All right, God bless. Bye-bye. All right, that's our show today, Focus Today. And again, the name of the book is When Did White Trash Become the Normal? Don't let the title throw you off. There's some really great chapters in there. And then her chapter on Psalm 23 and also her chapter on religion as well. So check it out. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.